Have you ever found yourself working really hard to be a good leader, only to wonder why the results that you're getting do not feel as strong or as consistent as you expected? I definitely have felt that way. So if you have, you are not alone. Here's the deal. Most leaders care deeply, put in so much effort, genuinely want to do right by their people. And yet, sometimes trust can still feel, not there. Engagement is waning. And what often sits underneath that frustration is a lack of alignment between how we see and understand ourselves and how other people experience us. So that gap matters. It matters because our leadership outcomes are shaped far more by the impact that we have than the intent that we have. If we haven't met yet, I'm Leanne Lagasse. I'm a leadership consultant, a keynote speaker, an executive coach, and the author of The Congruent Leader. I get to spend my days working with leaders who are very driven and thoughtful and who want their leadership to feel clearer and more effective and have a bigger impact. At the heart of my work is a concept called congruent leadership. Congruent leadership is about alignment between who we believe that we are, how we see ourselves, what we value, how we show up, and then how others actually experience us over time. So when we do things strategically to strengthen that alignment, it improves all sorts of things in our leadership and in our organization. The framework that I use to teach congruent leadership is built around 7 pillars. And I chose pillars very intentionally as opposed to like steps, right, in a process. And that's because pillars hold the weight all together, right? And they reinforce one another. And so congruent leadership is about the work of alignment unfolding over time. And each pillar in the 7-pillar framework is going to help us understand how we lead, how we relate to others, how others perceive us. So in this episode, I want to give you just a brief overview of each pillar to hopefully spark some curiosity and maybe to help you think a little bit about what you could discover about yourself in each pillar. So let's talk about the first pillar because it is the one that sets the tone for everything else. Pillar 1 is all about pursuing self-awareness with courage and commitment. So congruent leadership begins with a willingness to grow. Like we have to be willing to grow even when it is painful, even when it challenges how we see ourselves. So this pillar focuses on our mindsets, right? How training ourselves to stay curious about our patterns, inviting reflection around how others respond to us, especially when our self-image gets challenged. Because once a learning mindset becomes a part of how we lead, we are in a good position to then turn inward and look at Pillar 2, which is all about bringing our motivations, our values, and our actions into alignment. So we often have really strong values as leaders, but for a lot of different reasons, we will act in ways that are inconsistent with what our stated values are. And when we do that, right, those behaviors and that communication can be very confusing to our team members. And our values, when we are not stating them and living them out as clearly as we want to, it causes distrust to kind of grow among our team. So Pillar 2 is all about aligning our values and our actions. Pillar 3 is all about leveraging our talents and our strengths. These natural patterns of thinking, feeling, and behaving, they shape everything in our leadership. The decisions we make, the priorities we have, how we lead and respond to other people. Leaders who are congruent are those that are really grounded in their strengths and understand that their strengths are their best opportunity to get to awesome outcomes in their leadership. But as you know, strengths isn't the only part of that story. So that brings us to Pillar 4, which is all about managing your talent gaps, weaknesses, and blind spots. Every leader, myself included, we have areas that don't come naturally, right? Tendencies that get overused, and unfortunately blind spots that we don't have the eyes to see without moving towards feedback from other people. So this particular pillar is all about helping us grow in our awareness of our limitations, to own them, to manage around them, so that we have as positive an outcome on our teams as we possibly can. Pillar 5 is all about respecting the collective perception. The relationships, right, are necessary if we are to lead people well. And this particular pillar is all about learning how to move towards the feedback from the collective, right? From everybody on your team or that you work with, to understand what your natural tendencies are and what the general consensus is about your leadership. That brings us to pillar 6, which is has a little bit of an outward focus, and that is all about seeing and leading people as they are. This pillar is one of my faves because it invites us to slow down the assumptions that we might have about people we lead, to perceive them more accurately, especially when there are differences that exist on the team. All right, finally, we'll zoom out to the 7th pillar, which is all about your long-term impact, and it is owning your impact and your leadership legacy. So leadership leaves a trace, positively or negatively, right? This pillar invites us to think about the experience that we create for others and the kind of leader that we are becoming across time, not just in individual moments. These 7 pillars, they all work together. They reinforce alignment, they deepen trust, and they support leadership that feels intentional and human. In the next episode, we're gonna slow it down a little bit. We just did an overview this time. We're gonna slow it down a little bit and dig into pillar 1, which is all about self-awareness and how we approach that, hopefully with courage and commitment. So we're gonna talk about why growth feels threatening, why our mindsets being right are so important, and hopefully how to stay engaged with growth without getting defensive or discouraged, which is so easy to do. So if this framework resonates with you, I'd love for you to like and subscribe and share and do all of the things, and join me for the next episode. And as we move into that conversation, I would encourage you to pay attention to which pillar, as I talked through them today, stirred the most curiosity for you. That curiosity is often the first signal that meaningful growth is already underway. All right, thanks, and I'll see you next time.